I never thought I'd end up here. Writing about my life on an anonymous platform feels surreal, but here I am. My name is Mark, and I've recently gone through the most gut-wrenching experience of my life. I'm not holding back. I want to share my story so others can learn from it, or maybe just to vent. Let me start with some context. I married Lisa 5 years ago. We met in college, fell in love, and created what I thought was a solid foundation. At first, we were inseparable. We shared everything: dreams, ambitions, and laughter. But over the last year, things began to shift. It started with small changes in her behavior: a late night at work, a sudden interest in the gym, and those late-night girls' nights that turned into weekends away. I tried shrugging it off, convincing myself that life gets busy and we all need our space. But as anyone who's been through this knows, those little red flags grew into bright neon signs. The first real sign something was off came in the form of her phone. It was always glued to her side, which felt odd. I'd catch her scrolling through messages, her face lighting up with a smile I hadn't seen directed at me in a long time. One night I was in the shower, and when I came out, her phone was on the kitchen counter, face up. I couldn't help myself. I glanced at it. There it was, a new message from a guy named Jason. "Can't wait for our date tomorrow. You have no idea how much I've missed you." My heart sank. I wanted to believe it was innocent, maybe just a friend. But as days turned into weeks, I noticed more. There was a change in her tone, a distance in her eyes. She started wearing new clothes, more revealing, and I caught her glancing at her reflection more than usual. It felt like I was losing her to someone else, but I desperately clung to hope. Denial is a powerful thing. I didn't want to believe my wife would cheat on me. Then came the fateful day. My world tilted on its axis. I was supposed to meet Lisa for lunch, but she canceled last minute with some excuse about a work emergency. I felt a familiar gnawing suspicion, but I tried to shove it aside. Instead, I decided to surprise her at work. Maybe I'd catch a glimpse of that smile I missed so much. When I arrived, I noticed her car was parked outside, but she wasn't at her desk. I wandered around the office, approaching her colleague Sarah, who had always been friendly. "Hey, have you seen Lisa?" I asked casually. Sarah hesitated, then said, "Oh, she stepped out for an appointment. She mentioned she'd be back later." That didn't sit right with me. I felt a rush of anxiety. My heart raced as I decided to hang back and wait. About 10 minutes later, I saw Lisa walk into the parking lot, but she wasn't alone. She was with Jason, laughing, their bodies close as they leaned against her car. I froze, my heart pounding louder than ever. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I felt my stomach drop as they shared a brief kiss before she got into her car. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. She was cheating on me. All the signs I ignored, the late nights, the phone secrecy, suddenly they made sense. My world as I knew it shattered in an instant, and anger surged through me, bubbling beneath the surface. How could she do this? How could she lie to my face and betray everything we built? I felt the weight of my next steps. Confronting her would be the only way to get answers, to make sense of the chaos erupting inside me. But as I drove home, I was torn between rage and heartbreak. I knew I had to prepare myself for whatever came next. Confrontation was the hardest part, but I knew it had to happen. I couldn't let Lisa continue living this double life while I was left in the dark. After seeing her with Jason, I spent the rest of the day in a haze, replaying that moment on loop in my mind. The way she laughed, the way she kissed him, it was all too real. I felt rage boiling inside me, mixed with an overwhelming sense of betrayal. That evening, when Lisa walked through the door, I was already waiting. My heart raced, and I could barely contain my anger. She strolled in, her usual bright demeanor plastered on her face, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in our home. "Hey, babe, how was your day?" she asked, her voice cheerful, but it felt like nails on a chalkboard to me. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to remain calm. "We need to talk." I tried to keep my voice steady, but it quivered with the weight of my emotions. "What's wrong?" she asked, a flicker of concern crossing her face. "I didn't waste any time. I saw you with Jason today, don't deny it." Her expression morphed from surprise to a defensive mask within seconds. "Mark, what are you talking about? Cut the crap, Lisa. I saw you kiss him. It's over. I need you to be honest with me right now." My chest felt tight and I could see her scrambling for words, her mind racing as she tried to come up with a believable excuse. Okay, I can explain. She finally stammered. It's not what you think. Jason is just a friend. I interrupted, my frustration boiling over. A friend, really? You're telling me you share kisses with friends. How naive do you think I am? Her eyes darted around the room as she searched for a way out. I swear, I was going to tell you, I just didn't know how. The panic in her voice was palpable, but I wasn't buying it. Tell me what exactly, that you've been having an affair. I pressed, my voice rising. You really thought you could keep this from me? I saw you, Lisa, I saw everything. Her facade began to crumble. Yes, it's true, but it's complicated, Mark. You've been so distant lately. I felt alone. Jason was just someone to talk to. It didn't mean anything. Someone to talk to. You call that nothing? I shot back. You've been lying to me for months. You've been leading a double life while I'm here oblivious. Tears pooled in her eyes and she took a step closer to me. I never wanted to hurt you. I just got caught up in something I didn't know how to handle. I'm sorry. She sounded genuine, but I didn't know if it was just guilt speaking or real remorse. I felt my anger morphing into sadness. You don't get it, do you? This isn't just about the physical aspect, it's about trust. You broke that. How can we ever go back to what we had? You've changed. Please, Mark, she begged, her voice trembling. I'll do anything to make it right. We can work through this. I love you. Her words should have eased my heart, but all I felt was a cold emptiness. The love we built felt like a lie now, tainted by this betrayal. I wanted to believe her, but my mind was racing, drowning in thoughts of how this would change everything. I took a moment to collect myself before responding. I don't know if I can forgive you, Lisa. I need time to think about what this means for us. She nodded slowly, her eyes pleading as she stepped back, knowing the gravity of her actions. I felt like my heart was being wrenched into two. The woman I loved was standing before me, but all I could see was the betrayal. Afterward, I retreated to the living room, leaving her standing there with tear-streaked cheeks. I sank into the couch, my mind racing with disbelief. How did we get here? The memories of our life together played like a montage in my head. Moments of laughter and love, overshadowed by this shattering reality. I felt lost, caught between a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, betrayal, sorrow, it was all too much to bear. I knew I had to figure out my next steps. This wasn't just a matter of confronting her. It was deciding how I wanted to move forward. The pain felt unbearable, but deep down, I knew I couldn't allow myself to be a victim of her deception. I needed to regain control of my life. The night dragged on in thick silence. I sat in the living room, my mind a storm of thoughts and emotions. Lisa had retreated to the bedroom, and I could hear her muffled sobs echoing through the walls. Part of me felt sympathy for her, but another part felt enraged that she had the audacity to cry after what she'd done. It was all so confusing. I needed clarity. I needed to think about what I really wanted. My heart was heavy with the weight of betrayal, and I felt a sense of anger boiling inside me. The image of her laughing with Jason replayed in my mind, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she'd stolen something precious from me. Trust can be fragile, and she had shattered it like glass. I couldn't just let it slide. I wanted her to realize the severity of her actions. The next few days were a blur. We moved around each other like strangers in a shared space, and I couldn't stand the tension hanging in the air. I avoided her gaze, and she rarely tried to approach me. The silence was deafening, punctuated only by the occasional awkward attempts at conversation that ended abruptly. I felt like I was living in a nightmare and I just wanted to wake up. One evening, after another long day at work, I decided I needed to confront the reality of our situation head-on. I came home to find Lisa sitting at the dining table, her hair pulled back and her eyes red from crying. She looked up as I entered, and for a moment I felt a pang of sadness for the woman I once loved so deeply. Mark, she began, her voice shaky. Can we talk? I've been doing a lot of thinking. I crossed my arms, bracing myself for whatever she would say. What is there to talk about, Lisa? You've made your choices clear. Please, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I know I messed up, but I want to explain. It's not that simple. I motioned for her to continue, but I was already tired of her excuses. You really think explaining will make this better? You broke our vows, Lisa. You went behind my back. That's what matters. "I know," she shouted, frustration etched on her face. "But you have to understand how I felt. I was lonely and I thought you didn't care anymore. I was searching for something, someone to fill that void. I felt my anger rise again. So instead of talking to me, you decided to cheat. That's your solution." She looked defeated, and for a moment I found myself almost feeling pity for her, but I quickly pushed that thought away. "Tell me something, Lisa. Did you ever think about what this would do to me? Did you ever consider how I would feel when I found out?" "I never wanted you to find out," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know it was wrong. I thought I could handle it, but it spiraled out of control. I never meant to hurt you." The pain in her words was real, and I could see the remorse in her eyes, but the truth was still there, lingering in the shadows. She had made her choice, and it was one that tore us apart. "I need time to think about what I want, Lisa," I finally said, my voice steady. "I can't just forgive and forget. You need to understand that. This isn't something we can brush under the rug." Her face crumpled, and I felt a pang of guilt, but I pushed it aside. "I know you're hurting, and I am too, but we can't go back to how things were. I need to figure out if there's even a chance for us." "I'll do anything," she pleaded. "Just give me a chance." I shook my head slowly, the weight of my decision bearing down on me. "You had your chance, Lisa. Now it's my turn to decide." With that, I turned and left her sitting at the table, the weight of my words hanging in the air. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and a strange sense of empowerment. I was taking control of my life, but it hurt like hell. The next step was crucial. I couldn't just wallow in my pain. I needed a plan. I thought about what I really wanted moving forward. Did I want to fight for our marriage, or was it time to cut my losses and move on? I decided to reach out to a close friend, Jake. He had been my confidant through the ups and downs of my relationship with Lisa. I didn't know what to expect, but I needed someone to help me process everything. When we met at a local bar later that week, I finally allowed myself to spill everything. I told him about the affair, the confrontation, and the emotional roller coaster I was on. It felt good to speak the truth out loud. "Man, I'm so sorry you're going through this," Jake said, his expression sympathetic. "You don't deserve that kind of treatment, but what are you going to do about it?" "I don't know, Jake. Part of me wants to fight for her, for us. But can I really trust her again? Can I live with the knowledge that she chose someone else over me?" He offered me a thoughtful look. "That's a tough question, Mark. It's not just about her, it's about you and what you need. If you decide to stay, you have to set boundaries. If you leave, you need to make sure you're ready for the consequences." His words hung in the air, and I realized he was right. I needed to define what I wanted, not what Lisa wanted, but what was best for me. I left the bar that night with a clearer mind, ready to make decisions that would affect my future. As I drove home, I felt a mix of determination and fear. Whatever I chose, I knew it wouldn't be easy, but deep down, I was ready to confront this head-on and reclaim my life. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. I spent a lot of time reflecting on my choices, weighing the pros and cons of staying with Lisa versus cutting ties for good. It felt like I was standing at a crossroads, and the weight of my decision pressed heavily on my shoulders. I knew I couldn't let anger and sadness dictate my actions. I had to think rationally about what I wanted for my future. After much contemplation, I decided to have a follow-up conversation with Lisa. I knew that if I was going to make a decision, I needed to hear her out one more time. I wanted to know if she was truly remorseful and if she understood the consequences of her actions. One Friday evening, I asked her to meet me at a local cafe. I arrived early, my stomach in knots, feeling both anxious and resolute. When she arrived, I could see the apprehension on her face. She sat down, and I could tell she had been preparing for this conversation, her hands fidgeting nervously on the table. "Thanks for meeting me," she said quietly, her eyes searching mine for any sign of hope. "Let's cut to the chase, Lisa," I replied, trying to maintain a firm tone. "I've been thinking a lot about our situation, and I need to know if you're genuinely sorry for what happened." She nodded eagerly, her expression full of anxiety. "I am, Mark. I know what I did was terrible. I was selfish and stupid, and I hurt you. I can't express how sorry I am for betraying your trust." Her words felt sincere, but I was careful not to let myself get swept up in the moment. "Sorry isn't enough, Lisa. You have to understand that this isn't just about an apology. It's about rebuilding what you broke. I need to know what you're willing to do to fix this." "I'll do anything," she said immediately. I'll go to counseling, I'll be transparent with my phone and messages, and I'll make sure you feel secure in our relationship. Just please, let's not throw everything away. I could see the desperation in her eyes, and for a moment I felt a flicker of hope, but then I remembered the pain, the betrayal. What about Jason? Are you really done with him? I need to know you're serious about cutting ties. She hesitated for a brief moment, and that hesitation spoke volumes. Yes, I've already told him it's over. I want to focus on us and make things right. I'm committed to repairing our relationship. I took a deep breath, absorbing her words. I appreciate that you're willing to work on this, but I need time. This isn't something I can just forgive and forget. It'll take a lot of effort from both of us, and I can't promise I'll be ready anytime soon. Of course, she replied, her voice sincere. I understand. Just know that I'm here, ready to do the work. I've realized how much I love you and how much I've taken for granted. Hearing her say that tugged at my heart, yet I also felt a sense of caution rising within me. Trust was fragile, and while I wanted to believe her, I couldn't ignore the reality of what had happened. I need to think about this more, I said, trying to maintain a level head. I'm not saying no, but I'm not saying yes either. I need to take a step back and figure out what's best for me. Okay, she nodded, disappointment etched across her face, but she respected my need for space. I just hope you'll give me a chance to prove to you that I can change. We left the cafe without any solid answers, both of us feeling the weight of uncertainty. I felt a mix of anger and sadness as I drove home. The road ahead was foggy, and I had no idea what the right decision would be. I was terrified of what would happen next. As the days passed, I found solace in spending time with Jake and my other friends. I sought their advice, shared my feelings, and began to build a support system. They reminded me that I wasn't alone, and that was a comfort. It also gave me perspective on my situation. But Lisa was persistent. She texted me daily, sometimes multiple times, reminding me of her commitment to making things right. I appreciated her efforts, but each message also brought back the pain of betrayal. I was torn between wanting to believe her and the overwhelming fear of being hurt again. One night, while I was scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon a picture of Lisa and Jason. It was taken before everything had happened, but seeing it sent a wave of anger crashing over me. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of memories I didn't want to relive. I knew I had to confront her about it. The next day, I called her. "We need to talk," I said, my voice tense. "I saw a picture of you and Jason online, and I need to know why it's still out there. It feels like you haven't really cut ties." "Mark, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that photo was still up. I'll take it down," she said, her tone frantic. "I promise I'm done with him. I can't believe you had to see that." I felt a mix of frustration and sadness. "It just feels like you're not taking this seriously. I need you to understand how hard this is for me." "I do understand," she insisted, her voice rising. "I'm trying, just give me a chance." After hanging up, I sat in silence, grappling with my emotions. I had to make a decision soon. I couldn't keep living in this limbo. I needed to either commit to working on our marriage or start moving on. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. I replayed every moment of our relationship, every laugh we shared, and every tear she shed. I wanted to remember the good times, but I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that loomed over me. I finally realized that whatever I decided, it needed to come from a place of strength, not fear. I was determined not to let her dictate my happiness. I could no longer be a victim in this situation. It was time to take control of my fate. The next day, I called Lisa and asked her to meet me again. I had made a decision, and I was ready to face the consequences, whatever they might be. When I asked Lisa to meet again, I could feel my heart racing. I had spent countless hours weighing my options, and it was time to share my decision with her. I chose a small park nearby, a neutral ground where we could talk without distractions. As I arrived, I took a moment to breathe deeply, trying to steady my nerves. Lisa arrived shortly after, her expression a mix of hope and anxiety. She greeted me with a tentative smile, but I could see the tension in her posture. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, her voice soft and vulnerable. "Let's get straight to it," I replied, trying to keep my tone even. I've been doing a lot of thinking about our situation, and I want to be honest about where I'm at. Her eyes widened and she nodded, holding her breath as if bracing for impact. I've realized that rebuilding trust takes time and I can't rush this process, I began. I'm not going to pretend everything is fine when it's not. The betrayal cut deep and I need to know that you understand the gravity of what you did. I do understand, Mark, she said quickly, her voice shaky. I know I messed up and I've been reflecting on everything. I want to make it right. Paused, searching for the right words. But here's the thing, I don't think I can stay in this relationship right now. I need to take a step back and find out who I am outside of us. Her face fell and she looked down at her hands, a wave of hurt washing over her features. Are you really saying you want to end things? I think we need space, I replied. I can't move forward while carrying the weight of what happened. It's not healthy for either of us. Tears pooled in her eyes and she shook her head as if trying to process the words. I never wanted to lose you, Mark. I'll do better, I promise. Just please don't walk away. I felt a pang of guilt, but I had to be strong. I appreciate your desire to change, but this isn't just about you. I need to prioritize my own well-being right now. I need to heal. Lisa's shoulders slumped and her voice trembled as she spoke. I understand. I can't argue with how you feel. I just wish things could be different. I do too, I admitted, my voice softening. But we can't go back to how things were. It wouldn't be fair to either of us. I need to figure out what I want, and right now that means walking away. I'll always love you, Mark, she said quietly, tears streaming down her cheeks. I really hope you find peace wherever that leads you. I hope so too, I replied, my heart aching for the woman I once knew. But I need to find my own path from here. With that, we parted ways, and I felt a mix of relief and sorrow. It was hard to walk away, knowing how much I would miss the connection we had shared, but deep down I knew it was the right decision for me. The following weeks were a blur. I focused on rediscovering myself, spending time with friends, and engaging in activities that brought me joy. I poured myself into work and picked up a few hobbies I had neglected, like painting and hiking. Each day felt like a step toward healing, but the absence of Lisa lingered in my heart. I also began seeing a therapist. Talking to someone helped me process the emotional turmoil I had experienced. I learned to navigate my feelings of anger, sadness, and betrayal, and I began to understand that healing takes time. One evening, while scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon a post from Lisa. She had shared a heartfelt message about self-reflection, coupled with a picture of herself looking happy and radiant. It hit me hard. I realized that, despite everything, I still cared for her. I wanted her to find happiness, even if it wasn't with me. As the months passed, I continued to grow and heal. I started to see the world through a new lens, one that allowed me to appreciate life's complexities. I learned that it's okay to take time for myself, to prioritize my happiness, and to set boundaries. Eventually, I felt ready to think about love again, but this time I approached it with caution. I knew that I had to build trust not just with others but with myself as well. One day, I received a message from Lisa. It was simple. I hope you're doing well. My heart raced, but I took a moment to breathe before responding. I'm doing okay, I texted back, feeling a sense of closure. I've been focusing on myself and healing. She replied, I'm glad to hear that. I'm working on myself too. I hope we can both find happiness, whatever that looks like. In that moment, I realized that while our paths had diverged, we both had the potential to grow and learn from our experiences. I felt a sense of peace wash over me, knowing that I had made the right decision for myself. As I reflected on my journey, I realized that relationships can be complicated, filled with unexpected twists and turns. But through it all, I had learned the importance of self-respect, healing, and knowing when to let go. Moving forward, I felt empowered to embrace life's uncertainties, trusting that everything would unfold as it was meant to. My heart was still mending, but I was ready to step into the future with hope. As the weeks turned into months, I found myself in a new rhythm. Healing was a process, not a destination, and each day brought its own challenges and victories. I kept reflecting on everything that had happened, and while it still hurt, I was beginning to see the lessons woven through the pain. One evening, I met up with Jake at our favorite bar to catch up. He was always a solid support system, and I valued his perspective. Over a couple of beers, I shared how I was feeling about my newfound freedom, the clarity I'd gained, and how my journey of self-discovery was progressing. "I'm proud of you, man," Jake said, leaning back in his chair with a grin. "You've been through hell and back and you're coming out stronger. That's not easy." "It's a work in progress," I replied, swirling the amber liquid in my glass. "But I feel different now. I'm learning to prioritize my happiness. It's liberating, but it's also scary." "Change always is," he said thoughtfully. "But you're doing the right thing. You're not just moving on, you're growing, and that's the best kind of revenge you can get. You're writing your own story now." His words hit home. I realized that for so long I had allowed my relationship with Lisa to define me. Now I was reclaiming my narrative, and it felt empowering. I was taking charge of my life, and while I didn't know what the future held, I was ready to embrace it. About 6 months after I left Lisa, I decided to reach out to her again. I had thought about it for a while, and I wanted to see how she was doing, especially since we had parted on somewhat amicable terms. I sent her a text, keeping it light. "Hey, I hope you're doing well. I've been thinking about you and wanted to check in." To my surprise, she responded almost immediately. "Hey, Mark. I'm doing okay. I've been focusing on myself and trying to grow. It's been a journey, but I'm getting there." That small exchange opened the door for more conversation. We chatted about our lives, our individual journeys, and how we had both been working on ourselves. It felt refreshing to connect in a way that didn't involve the weight of past mistakes. I could sense the genuine growth in her, and I hoped she could see the same in me. Days turned into weeks, and we continued to occasionally text. We shared updates about our lives, and while we were living separate paths, it felt good to know that we both had the capacity for growth and change. Eventually, we agreed to meet for coffee, which felt like a big step forward. When I saw her for the first time in months, my heart fluttered. Lisa looked different. She seemed more at peace, more confident. We sat down at a cozy cafe, and as we chatted, I couldn't help but notice how much lighter the atmosphere felt compared to before. "I've missed this," she said, a genuine smile lighting up her face. "Talking to you feels different now. I think we've both changed in some way." "We have," I replied, "and this feels good. I've been working on loving myself again, and I hope you've been doing the same." "I have," she nodded, her eyes sincere. "I've realized how important self-reflection is. It's helped me understand why I made the choices I did, and I don't want to repeat those mistakes." As we caught up, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. We shared laughter and stories, and while it was clear we were no longer the couple we once were, I felt a mutual respect for the journey we had each undertaken. That coffee date marked a new chapter for both of us. We parted ways with a sense of peace, knowing we had moved on from that tumultuous period in our lives. The air felt lighter, and I left feeling hopeful, not only for myself but for Lisa as well. Reflecting on everything that had transpired, I understood that relationships can be messy, but they also offer invaluable life lessons. I learned about trust, the importance of communication, and the necessity of prioritizing my own happiness. Most importantly, I learned that healing isn't linear. It's a journey filled with ups and downs. As I stepped into this new phase of my life, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I was ready to explore new opportunities, meet new people, and embrace whatever came my way. I could finally let go of the bitterness and resentment that had occupied my heart for too long. I knew that love would find me again, whether in the form of a new relationship or through deepening friendships. The experience with Lisa, while painful, had ultimately shaped me into a stronger version of myself. I was ready to face the world, not as a victim but as a survivor, ready to write my own story.